You're here now, and that's more than enough. Welcome back to another night where you don't have to try. Just lie down. Let your limbs grow heavy. Let the silence settle like dust in an old temple. Tonight, you're not you. Tonight, you're someone else entirely. A peasant, perhaps, or a potter, or a doomed young shepherd who once dared speak too loudly near a sacred grove. Yes, tonight, you are a mortal. Not a modern one with soft mattresses, temperature controls, and coffee machines. Number A Greek one, an ancient one, the kind the gods laughed at, the kind who built temples for divine approval, and still got turned into lizards. If that sounds exciting, it wasn't, not for you. Life as a mortal? Oh, it was awful. But in a slow, dusty kind of way. Nothing urgent, just endless chores and divine punishments you didn't see coming, so breathe in slowly. And maybe subscribe if drifting off inside forgotten myths and broken sandals sounds like your kind of night. Let us know in the comments what city you ruled in your dreams, or which god you annoyed. Everyone has one. Now let's go back, way back, to somewhere warm, damp, and faintly olive-scented. You wake up in your house, or something like a house. It's one room, maybe two if you're lucky. Smells like goat, smoke, and the wet hem of someone's tunic. The floor is dirt. You swept it yesterday, but dirt returns. It always does. Your bed is made of straw, which sounds romantic in the poems, but mostly it itches, and it's alive, with things you've stopped trying to name. Your back aches. You're 22 and already feel 70. You slept badly because your neighbour's donkey kicked the wall again. Or maybe it was the gods. They sometimes visit in dreams disguised as wind, or mould. You stretch, careful not to stand too quickly. The last time you did, you saw Apollo's face in the rafters and bit your tongue. Hard. Blood tastes like bronze. Which is fitting, because everything around you is made of bronze, clay, or someone else's suffering. You reach for your tunic. It's the only one you own. It's damp. Of course it's damp. Everything is. You pull it on anyway. It smells like last week. But that's fine. So do you. You don't bathe daily. You bathe when the rain lasts long enough or when the village priest declares a ritual cleansing day. Which happens, sometimes, if the river doesn't get angry. Outside it's bright. Too bright. The sun is always a little too much in Greece. It's like Helios knows you're trying to hide from responsibility and just won't let you. Your mother is already awake. She's grinding barley with that look on her face. The one that says she's either tired of life or tired of you. Probably both. She hums a hymn to Demeter under her breath, just loud enough that you feel guilty for not helping. You do help. Sort of. You pick up the amphora and try not to trip over the chicken that thinks it lives inside now. You have to fetch water. Again. Always water. Mortals need it. So do gods. Except when they don't. The rules are blurry. You walk down the dirt path. Your sandals flapped sadly. Your toes are already brown with dust. You greet a neighbour. He ignores you. Or maybe he's deaf. Or maybe he's in mourning. Someone's always in mourning. The well is busy. Of course it is. It's the only well. You wait. You try not to stare at the girl beside you. She's weaving laurel into her hair. You think she might be preparing for a festival, or a funeral, or both. It's hard to tell. You draw the water. You spill half. It's fine. No one saw. Except Hermes, maybe. He sees everything. He might make you trip later just for fun. You head back. The amphora's heavy. Your shoulders ache. You think about death briefly, but not in a dramatic way. Just in the casual, everyday way mortals do when their bones creak and the olives haven't ripened. Back home, your mother sighs at the water. Too little, too late, too lukewarm. You accept this judgment. She hands you a fig. It's slightly bruised. It's also breakfast. You chew slowly, tasting both the sweetness and the dust. Then come the chores. Feeding goats, chasing goats, apologizing to the neighbour for the goat. You sweep again. The dust returns. You fix a fence. It breaks again. You look at the sky and try to read omens in the clouds, but they're just clouds today. Puffy, thoughtless, mocking. Midday heat arrives like a punishment. You retreat inside. The house is no cooler, just darker. You sit beside your younger brother. He's making something out of clay, a little statue, of a god. Maybe Artemis, maybe Dionysus. Maybe he's just bad at sculpture. You nod. He smiles. You feel something like pride or resignation. It's hard to tell. Your father returns from the fields. His face is red. His hands are bleeding. He says the wheat was ungrateful. You nod again. That's a normal thing to say. Lunch is lentils, or what might once have been lentils. They're soft, grey, generously seasoned with disappointment. You eat with your hands. Spoons are for the wealthy, or the priests. The priest stops by, just as you're picking a lentil from your teeth. He smells like incense and something worse. He says the omens are troubling. A storm is coming, maybe metaphorical, maybe not. The gods are restless. They often are. You offer him your last olive. He takes 2. He smiles. You don't. Later you visit the temple, not because you want to, but because everyone else is. It's safer to be seen sacrificing than to explain why you didn't. You kneel. You whisper a prayer. You ask for protection, for luck, for fewer goats in your sleeping area. You leave a small offering, a piece of bread, slightly burnt, but still sacred if done with sincerity. The statue of Hera stares down at you, cold, unblinking. You wonder if she listens. Probably not. She's busy. She has other mortals to ignore. You walk home as the sun begins to lower itself, like a tired god after a long tantrum. You think about life, about how small you are, about how even when you do everything right, you might still get turned into a tree, or a bird, or a constellation. You shrug, that's just how it is. A mortal, in Greece. And the gods are watching, always watching. You step inside. The room is warm, the air is thick with smoke and garlic. Your mother is humming again, your brother is asleep on the floor. The goats are somewhere, probably in the bed. You lie down, the straw is still itchy, but the day is done, and you are miraculously still human, for now. You're sitting now, on a stone. It's not a special stone, not polished, not blessed, not even particularly flat. But it's the kind of stone that has known the weight of too many people, the kind that still remembers every elbow, every sigh, every dropped fig and whispered regret. The kind of stone that belongs to no one, but everyone leans on it eventually. Around you, the village buzzes in that lazy way that never feels urgent but never stops either. A distant flute drones from somewhere behind the olive grove. Not a tune exactly, more like a memory that someone keeps trying to hum. It's always there, like the taste of dust or the sting of smoke in the eyes. You watch an old woman shuffling by, balancing a basket of something. You hope it's grapes, but it might be eels or curses or both. She doesn't look at you. That's all right. Most people don't. You're not important. Not cursed, not divine, not tragic. Just painfully normal. The kind of mortal that fills space between myths. The kind the gods barely notice, unless they're bored. You rise because you're supposed to. No one tells you to, but that's the rhythm of things. Too long sitting, and people start to think you're avoiding something, and they're usually right. So you move, though your legs protest. Your knees pop. That's fine. Everyone's knees pop, even the young ones. You wander toward the market where the world smells worse but feels fuller. The scent hits first. Fish, obviously, not fresh. Not exactly rotten either. Just tired. The olives are out too, wrinkled like priest fingers and twice as oily. You pass stalls stacked with cloth, bronze trinkets, carved animals, and once again, the ever-hopeful eyes of a dozen sellers who all pretend they've never met you, even though they have. You've bought their figs, you've dropped their figs, you've argued over bad figs, but today you just nod and pretend you're rich enough to be above it. That's something mortals do a lot. Pretend. Pretend they're holy. Pretend they're safe. Pretend they matter more than a goat. You stop in front of the amphora merchant. His jars gleam in the sunlight like proud bellies, each hand painted with scenes you know too well. Gods turning into animals, mortals being punished for existing, wars that end in poetry, but mostly ended in screaming. You run your finger across one, a girl turning into a tree. You remember that myth. She ran too fast, prayed too hard, and became bark. Some people say it's beautiful. You think it sounds exhausting. But it sells, so the merchant nods at you, eager. You nod back, vague and non-committal, and step away before he asks questions your coin purse can't answer. The agora is getting louder. Someone's yelling about taxes, which makes sense because taxes are one of the few things the gods didn't invent. That was mortals. Pure mortal invention. Even the gods are confused by it. But still, the collector comes and you pay. With coin, or labour, or dignity, usually all three. A commotion draws your eye. A boy is being dragged by his ear by a sandal vendor. Apparently he tried to trade a pebble for a pair of shoes. You admire the effort, if not the wisdom. The vendor curses in 3 dialects, calling on gods that haven't been fashionable in 100 years. The boy squirms, the crowd watches, then forgets. That's how it goes. Small moments puff up like drama, then disappear like smoke. Nothing lingers, not really, except gossip. That always lingers, like garlic in the teeth. You pass a man sitting cross-legged on a rug, pretending to see the future. His eyes roll back too quickly. His hands wave too smoothly. He tells an old woman she'll live to 90. She laughs. She's already 92. He adjusts his prophecy, but she's gone. He looks at you and opens his mouth. You shake your head and keep walking. You don't need to hear your future. You already know it. It smells like lentils, creaks like bad sandals, and ends somewhere dusty. Like everyone else's. You take the long way back as the market begins to close. The sun is lower now, casting gold light across rooftops and making everything feel like a myth, but not a good one. One of the slow ones. The kind with too much walking. You stop at the temple steps not to pray but to rest. The marble is cool under your palms. A priest sweeps the floor with a broom made of old reeds and older prayers. You think he might be humming, or muttering. You're not sure. You watch him for a while. He doesn't look up. You like that. You don't always want to be seen, especially not by those who speak for the gods, because they always see something they want to fix, and you, frankly, are too tired to be improved. A dog wanders past, thin, familiar. You think it's the same one that stole your bread last week. You don't blame him. You would have done the same. The dog lies down near the altar and licks something off its paw, possibly sacred, possibly chicken. You both ignore each other out of mutual respect. Someone is lighting a torch. The scent of burning oil drifts toward you, sweet, sharp, and slightly nauseating. You close your eyes for a second, just to pretend you're somewhere else, somewhere clean, somewhere where the gods love you not because they're testing you, but because they simply love. But those places aren't real, not for mortals, not for you. You stand again slowly and begin the walk home. Each step feels softer now. The earth knows your weight. Your house glows faintly in the evening. Your mother is outside, her hands on her hips, looking at the sky like it owes her something. Maybe it does. She doesn't speak as you approach. She doesn't need to. You hand her the sack of stale onions you bartered for with a promise and a slightly broken flute. She grunts. That means thank you, or you're late, or I forgive you, depending on the angle of the sun. You step inside. The room is warm with firelight. Your brother is drawing gods on the wall with charcoal again. One has 7 arms. Another looks like your uncle. You say nothing. It's better that way. You lie on the straw. It still itches, but somehow tonight it feels softer. Maybe it's the company. Maybe it's the torchlight dancing on the walls. Maybe it's the fatigue. Or maybe it's the quiet knowledge that for one more day the gods have not noticed you. And in this world that is perhaps the greatest blessing of all, you don't wake up because you're rested. You wake up because someone is yelling. It's not the kind of yelling that means danger. It's the other kind, the everyday, domestic yelling. The kind that's less about anger and more about volume, about proving you're still alive by making sure everyone else hears it. It's your neighbour again, or maybe it's your aunt, or your mother. The voices all blur together after a while. This is what the gods never understood. They assumed mortals craved glory or power or divine favour, but no. Most mortals just wanted a little silence in the morning, just a few slow minutes between sleep and obligation, a moment to remember who they are and who they used to be, before the sun demands they start proving it again. But the sun is already up, not gently either. It rises in that unbothered way it always does, like a flaming chariot dragged by something that's late for a divine appointment. Light stabs through the wooden slats in your wall. You shield your eyes, or try to. Your hand is still half asleep. You roll over. Something cracks under your shoulder. It's either a pebble or your will to go on. You don't check. You rise slowly, the way one lifts themselves out of debt, not quickly and not without regrets. Your tunic is still damp, you sniff it. It hasn't improved. You put it on anyway. You always do. That's what mortals do best. Tolerate things that clearly aren't improving. Outside, a rooster crows, late as usual. Roosters are never early, just loud. You pass your brother near the doorway, muttering to a cracked plate like it's an oracle. He might be right. You wouldn't put it past the gods to whisper through broken pottery. You step into the sun blinking. The day is already halfway gone. You missed the morning chants, which is probably fine. The chants rarely make anything better. They just give people something to do with their hands. You squint at the road. The dust is alive again. Little storms of it kicking up with every passing cartwheel and wandering goat. You wonder briefly what it would be like to be dust. Aimless, blameless, unpunishable. Then you remember dust doesn't eat figs, so you let that dream go. You follow the path toward the outer edge of the village, toward the fields. Not because you're a farmer exactly, more because everyone eventually ends up in a field, either working in it, dying in it, or being buried beneath one. You pass a woman carrying a jug on her head, arms steady, face blank. Her feet are bare and hardened like clay. She does not greet you. That's all right. Words cost effort, and effort is something mortals spend carefully. You nod, more to the world than to her, and keep walking. In the fields, the air smells like wheat, sweat, and something trying to pretend it's hope. You bend down to help, not because you want to, but because you're watched. Always watched. By neighbours, by relatives, by goats, and by the gods who are never as far away as you'd like them to be. The work is not glamorous. It's never been. The stories that tell you mortals were proud of their toil, they were written by poets, and poets don't do chores. You pull weeds, your hands blister, you sweat. A bee stings your ankle and you curse quietly, because loud cursing might offend Demeter, or Aphrodite, or whichever deity has claimed ownership of bees this week. You suck in your breath, keep working, and pretend you're strong. That's the trick, not to be strong. Just to seem like it, long enough that no one offers you pity. Pity is dangerous. It draws attention, and attention is something you cannot afford. Someone nearby is singing. It's not a good song, just something rhythmic, something ancient and off-key. But it helps. You lose track of time. The sun shifts slightly, and your back burns. Your fingers are scratched. You pause to drink from a leather pouch that tastes like warm goat. You don't complain. Complaining is a luxury for those who don't have to return to the same field tomorrow. You stretch. Barely. Your spine makes a sound like a dry branch. You ignore it. You always do. A boy runs past, his feet are caked in mud. He's laughing, chasing something invisible. Maybe it's joy, maybe it's madness. Maybe there's no difference. You envy him. Just a little. Then you remind yourself that even children get caught in myths, especially children. They become kings too young or victims too early. They anger Hera with their innocence or Apollo with their beauty. No one is safe from a bored deity. You shake off the thought, wipe your brow, and return to the weeds. At some point the sun tips just enough that someone decides it's late enough to stop. That's how time works here. Not by clocks, but by collective agreement. Everyone rises slowly. Everyone groans a little. Everyone lies and says, "It wasn't so bad today." You say it too. It helps. It doesn't change anything, but it makes the walk home feel shorter. You pass by the well again. The same stone, the same dog, the same sound of someone being mildly disappointed in something. The world is nothing if not consistent. Back home, your mother has made something. You can't tell what. It's bubbling. It smells of onions and penance. You eat it. You thank her. She nods. This is affection. This is care. This is how people love when they've been alive too long to say it plainly. Your brother talks about a dream he had. Something with wings and thunder and a goat that spoke Latin. You nod. You say it was probably a message from Zeus. You don't believe it, but it comforts him. That's enough. Sometimes mortals lie for kindness, not survival. It's the one thing they do better than gods. The night creeps in like a patient snake, curling in the corners of your home. Shadows stretch and mingle, and the fire in the hearth spits quietly, like it's tired of being fire. You lie down. The straw crackles. Something scurries across your leg. You don't flinch. If it's a spider, it's good luck. If it's a mouse, it's company. If it's a god in disguise, you'll deal with that tomorrow. You stare at the beams above you. They hold up more than just the roof. They hold up the weight of ordinary life, the quiet tragedies, the unspoken rituals, the days that feel like repeats of other days, stitched together by habit and hope. You exhale, not because you're content, but because there's nothing left to do today. And in this small, strange, endlessly inconvenient life, That is its own kind of peace. You're walking again. You're always walking. That's what it means to be a mortal in the land of the gods. Your legs don't get stronger, just more obedient. They carry you along paths that used to be sacred, or maybe they still are, though nobody remembers the name of the nymph who once bathed near this tree, or the hero who once bled on this rock. They say every inch of this land is a story, but you haven't had time to listen. You're too busy collecting firewood, or figs, or the scattered pieces of a life that never asked to be interesting. The wind picks up slightly. It smells like thyme and something sour, old wine perhaps, or bad omens. You can't tell. The scents blend together here, just like everything else. You wrap your cloak a little tighter. It doesn't help. The wind always finds its way through. There's a path up the hill that no one takes after dark, but it's not dark yet. Just late enough that your shadow feels longer than it should. You climb anyway, because you were asked to gather kindling, because saying no is something mortals only do when they're prepared to accept consequences, and you're not. You never are. Halfway up you pause, not from exhaustion, though there's that too, but because you saw something move, or thought you did. Probably just a bird, or a curse with wings. Either way you keep moving. The trees grow older here, not taller, just older. Their bark peels like skin and their roots curl like toes, clutching secrets too ancient for language. You don't look them in the eye. That's not a joke, that's advice. At the top, the world opens up. The valley stretches out below you, dotted with the tired shapes of homes and the curling smoke of too many cooking fires. The sun is still hanging on by the edge of the sky, a blood-orange smear above the mountains. It's beautiful. But not in the way poems describe. It's beautiful in the way a wound is beautiful when it stops bleeding. You sit down on a flat rock. It's cold. That's fine. You're used to discomfort. You carry it like jewellery now. Worn in, familiar, occasionally irritating. You watch the sun drop a little more, and you let your thoughts drift. Not too far, just enough to feel like they're yours. You think of the gods. You always do when the world gets quiet. Not because you love them, not even because you fear them, but because they're part of the furniture now, like weather or hunger. You think of Apollo, always posing, always glowing, always watching. You think of Artemis, silent and sharp, hiding behind the stars with her bow aimed at whoever offends the moon next. You think of Athena, brilliant and indifferent, weaving fate like it's a puzzle only she finds amusing. And of course, you think of Zeus, loud, leering, lightning in one hand and poor judgment in the other. You wonder what they're doing now. Probably nothing, or everything, or something vaguely theatrical involving swans. It's strange, isn't it? To live in a world where the divine is real and also completely unreachable, where miracles happen, but usually to someone else. You've never seen a god, not really. Maybe a flash of light once, or a voice in a dream, or a statue that seemed too lifelike. But then again, everything seems suspicious when you're this tired, the kind of tired that seeps into your bones and builds a home there. The kind that doesn't go away, just rearranges itself based on what you're pretending to care about that day. You gather the firewood, slowly, like it might explode. It won't. But you never trust objects to stay mundane for long. 1 minute it's a stick, the next it's cursed, or sacred, or both. That's the thing about Greek life. The ordinary is always waiting to betray you with significance. You bundle the sticks and start the walk down. The path looks steeper now. The shadows are longer, the cold more personal. You breathe slowly, matching the pace of your feet. You've learned not to rush. Haste leads to twisted ankles, forgotten prayers, and sometimes transformation into shrubbery, all of which you'd like to avoid. As you near the edge of the village, you hear music, not good music, but it has rhythm. Pipes, maybe. Drums made from something no one discusses. It's a festival. Of course it is. You'd forgotten. There's always a festival. Mortals cling to celebration like ivy, mostly decorative, but occasionally useful when the walls start to crumble. You approach the square. The torches flicker against the night, illuminating faces painted with wine and hope. There's dancing. The kind of dancing that looks like running in place. The kind that involves shouting names you don't recognize but pretend to. A man in a wolf mask hands you a cup. You don't ask what's in it. You drink. It burns. You feel something loosen in your chest. Not joy exactly, but the thing that comes before it. Someone tugs your arm. You move into the crowd. You pretend to dance. No one notices you're pretending. That's the secret. Everyone is pretending. Even the priestess who sways near the fire like she's channeling a spirit, but whose eyes dart toward the roasted figs whenever she thinks no one's watching. You laugh. Quietly. It feels good. Briefly. The music swells. Someone sings, off-key, passionately. A dog howls in agreement. You sway with the crowd, letting your body remember something older than language. Movement, rhythm, breath. It doesn't last. Nothing does. The music fades. The torches burn low. People stagger off in pairs or alone or somewhere in between. You watch them go. You stay a little longer, staring into the fire. It crackles like old bones. You wonder if it ever gets tired of being fire. You pour the last of your drink into the flames. They hiss. You whisper thanks. You don't know to whom. It doesn't matter. Gratitude doesn't always need a destination. You walk home in the dark. Slowly. The firewood still slung under one arm. Your head humming with bad wine and the memory of almost enjoying something. Your house waits for you, crooked and kind. Inside, your mother is asleep, mouth open, dreaming of a younger version of herself. Your brother is curled under a rug, mumbling to a wooden spoon. You lie down on the same itchy straw, close your eyes, and think. Maybe the gods won't notice you again tomorrow. Maybe, just maybe, that will be enough. You wake up before the sun. Not because you want to, but because the rooster forgot it's supposed to announce the sunrise, not summon it. You lie there for a moment, trying to remember your own name or what century it is. You stretch one leg. Something cracks. It might be the floor, or your soul. You don't check. There's a soft breeze coming through the wall, which would be more pleasant if the wall hadn't been meant to keep things out. The breeze smells like dew and mildew and one of the neighbour's cats. You pull your cloak over your face and breathe through it, as if that will filter the world into something cleaner. It won't. But pretending is one of your few comforts, and you cling to it like a fig in the storm. You sit up slowly, feeling each joint announce its discontent like a small chorus of retired warriors. Your straw bedding is matted with something unidentifiable. Could be olive oil, could be a mouse, could be the blessing of Hestia, goddess of the hearth. Though she hasn't returned your offerings in quite some time, you rub your face. It's sticky. You don't ask why. Mortals stopped asking questions a long time ago. You dress in silence, sliding into your one tunic like a hermit crab entering a too small shell. It itches. It's damp. It still smells faintly of last week's panic. Perfectly acceptable. Outside, the world is still dark. The village lies curled in on itself, quiet except for one man sneezing violently from a rooftop, probably communing with Athena in his own way. A torch flickers near the well. Someone else is already awake, probably the baker, or a ghost. It's hard to tell these days. You make your way toward the centre of the village, past houses that lean on each other like drunk friends after a festival. The ground is uneven, always has been. You step around a puddle of something that might be rainwater or divine punishment. Either way, it smells like it needs to be avoided. You reach the communal oven just as the baker is pulling out the first batch of bread. Steam rises like a prayer, curling in the air and briefly making the world feel less cruel. You hand over a few coins, slightly bent, slightly cursed, and receive a small loaf. It's hard on one side and mysteriously soft on the other, which is normal. You thank him with a nod and a grunt, and he blesses you with flour-covered fingers. You walk away chewing, each bite a battle between hunger and dental survival. You win, barely. A child runs past you, chasing a chicken with the determination of a mythic hero. The chicken is winning. You step aside, sipping water from a pouch you refilled yesterday, which now tastes like wet cloth and regret. The sun has finally decided to rise, dragging its golden limbs across the mountains and spilling light onto the rooftops like honey that's gone a little sour. You walk toward the temple, not out of devotion, but because you've been asked to help sweep the floor. Not the inner sanctum, that's for the priests and their favourites, but the outer area where people weep and gossip and occasionally faint from hunger or revelation. The priest greets you with the same expression he's worn since before you were born, vaguely annoyed, vaguely divine. He hands you a broom made of stiff reeds and old ambition. You begin to sweep, slowly, deliberately, as if sweeping were a form of meditation. Maybe it is. Or maybe it's just that everything takes longer when your body's held together by chores and borrowed time. The floor is covered in offerings. Some are coins, others are dried flowers, or burnt figs, or bits of broken jewellery meant to impress gods who haven't shown up in decades. You don't judge, you've done the same, left small pieces of yourself in sacred places hoping for something, a sign, a delay, a little mercy. As you work, you overhear whispers. A girl thinks her mother is cursed. A boy swears he saw Hermes in the fields. A man claims he heard laughter in his dreams and woke up with goat hooves. You nod. Not at them, just at the idea that reality remains this flexible, that at any moment the normal can tilt sideways and become epic, or ridiculous, or both. You finish sweeping and bow your head to the statue of Apollo, though you keep one eye open. He's got that look again, smug and shiny and slightly bored. You whisper a prayer just in case he's listening. Something small, something like, "Please don't turn me into anything today." That's all you ask. It's not much. You step outside into the light. It's warm now, too warm, the kind of warmth that makes your skin feel like it's being roasted by divine disinterest. You wipe your brow and consider returning home, but then you hear it, the low thrum of drums, not festival drums, war drums, or at least parade of someone important drums. You join the growing group near the road. Dust rises as a procession approaches, horses, shields, a nobleman draped in purple and too much perfume. He looks like someone who hasn't lifted anything heavier than a peach. People bow. You bow. He waves like a bored actor. You wonder what he's done to deserve all this. Probably nothing, or something very clever involving bribes and lineage. As the parade passes, a boy beside you whispers, "He's been blessed by the gods." You nod again. Everyone says that about the powerful. It's easier than admitting the gods don't care. Or worse, that they do, but only in strange, unhelpful ways. You return home slowly, the road now littered with petals and rumours. Your mother is waiting, arms crossed, mouth thin. She asks if you remembered the herbs. You didn't. She sighs. You promise to go back. You won't. She knows it, but she lets it go. There are worse failures. You sit by the hearth and pick at a bowl of something green. It's probably soup. It might also be a lesson in patience. You eat it anyway. Outside, the sky begins its slow surrender into twilight. The village softens, sounds grow rounder. Even the goats begin to hush. You sit beside your brother, who has drawn something in the ash again. A god, or a face, or a warning. You tell him it's beautiful. He doesn't respond. He's already asleep, eyes half open, dreaming of chariots or figs or nothing at all. You lie down, you breathe in the night. It smells like smoke and stories. You let the straw embrace you, scratchy and indifferent. Somewhere, far off, a god is smiling, or sneezing, or plotting a new constellation. But not here, not tonight. Tonight, you are safe. Safe in your smallness, safe in your forgettable, blessedly ordinary life. Safe, at least, until tomorrow. You're kneeling in the garden, or what passes for one, a patch of soil grudgingly convinced to produce life under threat of prayer, song and manure. Your hands are deep in it now, dark with dirt, scratched from thorns that don't even belong to roses. The earth smells like something old and damp and suspiciously familiar, like a root cellar mixed with ancestral disappointment. You don't know what you're planting. Your mother handed you seeds and muttered something about fate, which could mean beets or could mean protection from nightmares. You didn't ask. It's better not to. The seeds might hear you and decide to grow out of spite. You press each one into the ground like a miniature offering. Not to the gods, they don't tend to notice seeds, but to the earth itself, Gaia, if she's still listening. You once heard a priest say she never sleeps, that she's awake beneath your feet, dreaming you back into place every time you start to drift too far from your chores. You whisper something small to the dirt, something too soft for even you to hear. Maybe a wish, maybe an apology, maybe a weather request. The wind doesn't answer, it rarely does. Around you, the insects buzz in that relentless, purpose-driven way that makes you feel inadequate. A bee hovers near your ear. You freeze. You remember last time. A sting, a swelling, a lecture about humility from the priest, who insisted it was a divine reminder not to steal honey from sacred spaces. You weren't stealing, you were curious. There's a difference. But curiosity is risky business in a world where myths begin with questions and end with punishment. The bee decides you're not worth the effort and drifts off. You exhale slowly. You return to planting. The sun climbs higher, and your back begins to complain in sharp, increasingly poetic ways. You shift, squinting toward the horizon where the sky seems to blur into a colour that doesn't have a name, something between exhaustion and prophecy. You hear voices, children running, someone laughing too loudly, an argument over who owns the better goat, the normal soundtrack of village life, all of it layered over the deeper, more constant sounds. Birds, wind, the soft groan of trees settling into their age. You close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're a tree. Still, rooted, worshipped only occasionally, and never asked to fetch anything. Your mother's voice calls you back. She wants herbs. You nod, even though she can't see you. You stand, you stretch. Something pops, possibly important. You walk toward the edge of the garden, where the herbs grow in their defiant little clumps, half wild and entirely opinionated. You pick them carefully, whispering apologies to each stem as you snap it. It's a silly ritual, but it helps you feel less like a thief and more like a respectful guest in a world that was never yours to own. You return inside. The house is warm, not cozy warm, just dense warm, like a room full of sighs. Your mother takes the herbs and drops them into a pot without looking. She gestures for you to stir. You do. The mixture bubbles like it's judging you. It smells like medicine and lunch and punishment all at once. Your brother sits cross-legged on the floor, braiding threads into something that might be a bracelet or might be a trap. He doesn't speak. You envy his ability to disappear into his hands. Your father walks in, face like stone, eyes like wind, cold and moving too fast to follow. He grunts. Everyone nods. This is what passes for conversation. It's enough. The day moves forward, not like a river, but like a tired cart pulled by a limping donkey. Tasks pile up, mending, carrying, listening to someone retell a dream they've already forgotten the ending of. You nod at all of it. You carry jars that are heavier than they look. You sweep corners that never stay clean. You refill a water jug that leaks, but only when you're not looking. You wonder, briefly, if your life would be easier if you believed more. If you truly, deeply, honestly believed that the gods had a plan. That every broken bowl was a metaphor, every stubbed toe a lesson, every missed festival a divine redirection. But that kind of belief takes energy. And yours is mostly spent on not falling asleep while carrying firewood. Evening arrives without fanfare. No golden light, no chorus of birds, just a slower rhythm, a dimming. The kind of fading that feels like the world politely stepping out of your way. You eat quietly, bread that resists your teeth, cheese that smells slightly aggressive, a fig if you're lucky. The fire crackles, tired but still trying. You sit beside it and stare into its centre. There's a comfort in fire, not just the warmth, but the distraction, the way it moves like thought, darting, flickering, impossible to hold. Your brother snores softly beside you. Your father hums a tune that has no melody. Your mother braids something by candlelight, fingers moving like they've done it forever. You lie back on the floor, straw and blanket and bones all pressing into one another like long-lost enemies. You don't close your eyes. Not yet. You look up at the ceiling. The beams are crooked but loyal. They've held through storms and shouting matches and at least one goat invasion. You admire them. They don't ask for praise. They just do their job. You wonder if anyone will say the same about you someday. Probably not. Mortals don't get statues unless they die dramatically. Still, you think, as your breath slows and the fire sinks into embers, there is something noble in surviving the uneventful, in being small and steady in a world made of storms and swans and lightning bolts shaped like bad decisions. There's honour in chopping wood and returning it, in planting herbs that may or may not grow, in whispering to bees even when they don't listen. There's even honour in bad bread if eaten quietly. So you close your eyes, and the gods, if they're watching, say nothing, because sometimes the greatest kindness they offer is silence, and tonight it wraps around you like a blanket that doesn't quite cover your feet, but is enough for now. You open your eyes before the sky does. It's not quite morning, just that grey, uncertain hour where the world isn't ready to be seen. You lie still, not because you're rested, but because moving feels like a decision you haven't earned yet. The air is cool and damp, heavy with whatever dreams were left unfinished. You can hear your mother breathing, your brother shifting under his blanket. The coals in the hearth have gone silent, but they still glow faintly, like the last thought of someone who meant to do something important but forgot what it was. You sit up slowly, letting each joint complain at its own pace. You're in no hurry. You never are. Time doesn't rush for mortals. It just pushes gently, like a tide that doesn't care if you swim or drown. You step outside and the village greets you in its usual way, with indifference. The ground is soft beneath your feet, the grass wet and cold and vaguely hostile. A cat stares at you from the wall, judging you for reasons it doesn't feel the need to explain. You nod at it. It blinks. The understanding between you is mutual. Neither of you chose this life, but here you are. You walk toward the stream, your jug under one arm, the silence wrapped around your shoulders like a second cloak. There's something sacred in the early morning, but not the kind of sacred that makes you feel holy. It's the kind that makes you feel watched, not by gods, but by history itself. Like the trees remember what came before you and aren't entirely impressed. At the stream the water moves lazily, like it also woke too early. You kneel, dipping the jug into the current, watching the ripples stretch outward like tiny regrets. The cold bites at your fingers. You don't flinch. Pain this small has become familiar, almost polite. You listen to the water gurgle around the stones, to the distant creak of wood and whisper of wind in the olive trees. It's the kind of soundscape poets write about, though none of them mention how often you stub your toe on wet rocks. You lift the jug, heavier now, and turn back toward the village. The path home feels longer than usual. Your feet drag, your shoulders ache, but you walk it anyway because that's the rhythm, that's the ritual. Wake, fetch, carry, return. No grand story, just the slow repetition of survival. A rooster crows behind you. Late, again. You hope someone eats him soon. At home, your mother takes the water without a word. She dips her fingers in, nods once, and begins cooking something that smells both ancient and unconvincing. Your brother mumbles about a dream where he flew like a bird and then fell into a pit of snakes that all had your face. You tell him that sounds normal. He shrugs. Neither of you dwell on it. Dreams mean everything and nothing here. They're messages. They're madness. They're just part of the weather. The day unfolds in pieces. Someone asks you to help repair a fence. You say yes because saying no requires more words than you're willing to spend. The fence is crooked and tired, like most things in the village. You hold the post while another man hammers. The wood splits. He curses the gods. You nod. It's a safe target. The gods don't tend to argue back unless you're important, and you're not. The hammer slips. Your thumb becomes an altar for a moment. You bleed quietly, pressing it into your tunic like a prayer. No one notices. That's all right. Attention is expensive. You're content to suffer in the discount section. You're given bread as thanks. Harder than usual. Possibly a weapon. You chew it anyway. Hunger is stronger than teeth. You sit on a nearby rock and watch the clouds drift past. They're slow today, dragging long shadows across the hills like forgotten intentions. You wonder where the gods are now. Probably at Olympus, feasting, arguing, ignoring most of your kind. You imagine them, gold-skinned and radiant, complaining about nectar being too warm while mortals beg for clean water. You try not to feel bitter. It's not personal. The gods don't hate you. They just forget you exist between plagues and prophecies. Someone walks past with a basket of figs. You pretend not to notice, even though your stomach noticed 3 seconds ago. You remind yourself there's soup later. Probably. Maybe. You hope it's the kind with actual flavour and not just sadness. The wind shifts. It brings with it the scent of sheep, burnt wood, and something floral. Possibly funeral flowers, possibly love. They smell the same around here. You think about that for a moment, then stop. Thinking too long leads to questions, and questions lead to temples, and temples lead to disappointment. Back home your mother is singing, softly, the kind of song that predates language. Your brother is asleep again, arms folded like a priest. You sit beside the fire. The pot is bubbling. You're not sure what's in it, but it smells less offensive than usual. You stir it, slowly. The motion feels ancient, like you've been doing this forever in different bodies, in different huts, under different versions of the same sky. You watch the bubbles rise and pop. You try to remember the last time something surprised you. You can't. You eat in silence. The soup is fine, not good, not bad, just fine. That's how most things are. You rinse your bowl and place it upside down like an offering to the gods of completion. You lie down on your straw, the weight of the day pressing into your back like a tired philosophy. The roof creaks above you. The fire whispers its final thoughts. Your mother hums again. Your eyes close. You think of the stream, of the sky, of the fence and the rock and the dream with the snakes. You think of how much effort it takes just to stay ordinary in a world where everything wants to become a myth. And then, mercifully, you sleep. You're sitting in the courtyard again, or what once hoped to be a courtyard, a patch of uneven stone surrounded by half a wall, some hopeful herbs, and the faint scent of something dying in the corner. The sun is out, and that's supposed to be good news, but it just means your tunic sticks to your back, and your eyes ache from squinting at things you don't want to see. You shift your weight on the stone slab beneath you, which feels like it's storing every disappointment of your ancestors. You pick at a loose thread on your sleeve. You think about nothing, which is difficult, because nothing here always leads to something. A chore, a memory, or a story that doesn't end well. A bee wanders too close again. You hold your breath. You don't move. You've learned your lesson. You once swatted at a bee in front of a statue of Demeter. You still think that's why the crops failed that year. The priest insisted it was weather, but you know better. The gods aren't always fair, but they are consistently dramatic. The bee loses interest. You relax. You count the cracks in the stones like they matter. You used to think they might form some kind of pattern, a message from the earth. Now you think they're just cracks. Not everything is symbolic, just most things. Across the courtyard, your father is arguing with the neighbour about boundaries, not philosophical ones, land ones. Something about where the goat fence begins and whether the olive tree leans too aggressively toward your side. You tune it out. The words are old, recycled from the last fight, and the one before that. They speak in the same rhythm, like waves crashing on a stubborn shoreline. No one wins, they just eventually stop yelling and pretend they did. That's village justice. That's how peace works when there's nowhere else to go. A child runs past you, barefoot and shrieking with joy, or panic. Hard to tell, you assume it's joy. Panic takes a different tone, more shrill, more directed. You watch the child vanish around the corner and wonder what that kind of energy feels like. Then you remember. Fleeting, exhausting, unappreciated. You're not a child anymore. You're a collection of sore joints and weather predictions disguised as bones. You stretch. Something in your back makes a noise that sounds like myth-breaking. You decide it's best not to do that again. You hear a bell. Not a pretty bell. A clunky iron, unpleasant one. Which means someone's died. Again. You stand. You follow the sound because that's what people do. When someone dies, you show up. Not out of love, just out of form. Community isn't built on affection here. It's built on attendance. You arrive at the square where others have gathered. Faces drawn, eyes puffy, sandals dusty. A woman wails. A man stares at the ground like he's hoping to fall through it. The priest stands on a stone reciting something that sounds official and vaguely threatening. You listen. Sort of. You didn't know the person who died. Or maybe you did. It's hard to keep track. Names here echo. Repeat. Generations stack on top of each other like poorly made furniture. He might have been the one who lent you rope, or insulted your goat, or married that girl who danced like a tree in spring. Either way, he's gone now, and the gods, well, the gods rarely send explanations, just endings. The priest finishes, the crowd murmurs. The body's carried away. You stand still, watching the dust rise behind them, and you feel that familiar ache. Not grief, not exactly. More like the awareness of your own expiration date, slightly smudged, but always present. You return home. Your mother doesn't ask about the funeral. She just hands you a basket and says river. You nod. You don't ask what's in the basket. Probably laundry, possibly a ritual. Either way, it needs to be dunked and scrubbed. You walk toward the river path, which winds through dry grass and under trees that don't give enough shade. You pass someone coming the other way. They nod. You nod. That's conversation. That's all that's needed. The river appears like an answer to a question you didn't ask, cold, moving, smelling faintly of fish and fate. You kneel on the rocks, careful this time. You remember last summer, the moss, the slip, the bruised tailbone, and the priest who said the gods were trying to teach you humility. You didn't learn anything but how to fall slower. You dip the laundry in, you scrub, slowly, thoughtlessly. The rhythm of it lulls your mind. Your hands move on their own, like they've been doing this for 1,000 years. Which they have in a way. Not these hands, but hands like them. Generations of hands repeating the same gestures under different skies. You pause. The water rushes around your fingers, cold and insistent. You stare at your reflection. It doesn't look heroic, just tired, familiar, mortal. You think about Narcissus, who stared at his reflection too long and turned into a flower. You think about how lovely that sounds, actually. To be still, rooted, petaled. You splash water on your face instead and return to the scrubbing. A fish jumps nearby, possibly to mock you, possibly just to breathe. You return before sunset, the basket heavier now with damp fabric and thoughts. Your mother says nothing, takes the basket and hums. You sit by the fire again. The world dims 1 inch at a time. Shadows crawl into corners and stretch themselves out like they've been walking all day. You drink something warm and bland. You try not to think too much. You fail. Your mind drifts toward the gods again, not because you want it to, but because they're always just at the edge of your vision, like smoke, like memory. You wonder what they do when they're not meddling. Do they sleep? Do they gossip? Do they watch you and roll their eyes? You hope so. You hope someone, somewhere, is amused by your existence, that your spilled water and stubbed toes and failed dreams are at least good entertainment. You lie back on the straw, still slightly damp from earlier, and exhale. No one sings tonight, no one argues. Even the rooster is silent. You let the silence wrap around you, heavy, kind. You close your eyes and let yourself forget, just for a while, that tomorrow is coming again, and with it, everything you've already survived once before. You wake slowly as if surfacing from deep water, not the clean kind, but the kind found in neglected wells, cool, murky, and filled with the echoes of other people's memories. Your eyes adjust to the dimness of morning. The fire has died again. The coals have retreated into themselves, sulking in ash. You stretch under the rough blanket, more out of obligation than hope. Your limbs move reluctantly, like they'd rather not. You agree with them, but you get up anyway. That's what you do. That's what mortals do. You rise not because you're ready, but because staying still would mean explaining something, and explanations are exhausting. Outside, the air is damp. Not rain damp, just heavy, like the sky has been crying somewhere else and brought the mood with it. The chickens are already scratching at nothing. A goat bleats into the distance, unsure of its purpose. You nod at it. You understand. The village moves slowly in the haze of early day. People step out of their homes like actors forgetting their lines. A woman carries a bundle of sticks. A man sneezes into a scarf. A child drags a stick through the dirt, drawing spirals that mean nothing and everything. The world does not feel new. It feels reused, like a day that's been patched together from pieces of older days. Your mother hands you a list, not a written one. Paper is for priests and people who matter. No, this is a spoken list, recited in the tone of someone who expects obedience and has no time for sighs. You nod. You don't even listen that carefully. You'll remember what you can and make up the rest with shrugs and apologies. You take the basket and start walking toward the market. The path is familiar, worn into the ground by generations of footsteps identical to yours. You wonder how many of them felt important. Probably none. Probably all. The market is half awake. Stalls are being set up with the slow grace of sleepwalkers. Fish are laid out on cracked wood, eyes wide in eternal surprise. Bread is stacked like bricks, each loaf a tiny edible disappointment. You move through the stalls, bartering with nods and half smiles, trading vague pleasantries for slightly bruised vegetables. You hand over a coin and receive a small wheel of cheese that smells like a challenge. You thank the vendor, he doesn't hear you, or pretends not to. It makes no difference. You tuck the cheese into your basket and keep moving. You pause at the pottery stand, the same one you always pause at. The jars are lined up in a proud little army, each painted with a scene you recognize, a man being devoured by a sea monster, a woman turning into a bird mid-scream, a child offering flowers to a god who doesn't look interested. You stare at one depicting a man tied to a rock, a bird pecking at his chest. You've seen this story before. Everyone has. You wonder if he regrets whatever he did to deserve this. You wonder if he was even warned. You wonder if he'd do it again. You blink and realize the potter is staring at you. You nod and move on. You have no money for regrets. Near the fountain, two old women argue about the weather. One says the wind is an omen. The other says it's just wind. You believe both. You keep walking. You pass the temple steps. The priest is sweeping again. He's always sweeping. Either the temple is particularly filthy, or he just needs something to control. He hums a hymn to himself. You catch the words purify and endure. You pretend not to hear. You have nothing to purify. You're already enduring. You return home, your arms full, your back aching in that quiet, dependable way. Your mother inspects the goods. She nods once. That's all the approval you get. You sit by the fire and rub your knees. Your brother is carving something into a piece of wood. A face, maybe, or a god, or both. He says nothing. You don't ask. The fire is relit. The pot is placed above it. Something starts to boil. You stare into it like it might give you answers. Gives you steam. That's something. After lunch, you're asked to carry water again. Of course you are. The jug is chipped. You cradle it like it's holy, which in this village it is. Water is sacred. Not because it's clean, but because it arrives. You walk the path to the well. The same path, the same stones, the same weeds curling like secrets. You pass a man singing to himself badly. You pass a woman washing her feet, looking like she's apologizing to the ground. You nod at both. Neither respond. The well stands at the center of it all, ancient and bored. You lower the rope, listen to it creak, feel the splash far below. You pull, slowly, steadily. The jug fills with weight. You balance it on your shoulder and begin the walk back. You think about stories, the kind with heroes. You think about what makes a hero. Is it the sword, the tragedy, the destiny? Or is it simply showing up every day without applause, carrying water, mending fences, burying the dead, telling your sibling the gods still listen? You think maybe the bards got it wrong. Maybe they just needed better audiences. You get home and set the jug down. Your mother doesn't say thank you. She doesn't need to. You sit again, folding yourself into a shape the floor understands. Your father is asleep in the corner, snoring softly like a tired storm. Your brother is making music with 2 spoons and an empty bowl. You listen. It's not good, but it's real. The fire crackles. The sky outside begins to fade into that pale, familiar blue that comes before the dark. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the house breathe. You feel tired, not the kind that sleep solves, the kind that lives in your ribs, but you welcome it. Because here, in this moment, nothing is required of you. The world has paused, the gods are quiet, the neighbours are still. You lean your head back, you let your thoughts dissolve. You let yourself forget what you are supposed to do next. There is no next, just now, and now is enough. You're sweeping again. Not because the floor needs it, though it does, but because sweeping is the sort of thing that keeps your hands busy while your mind waits for something to happen. Nothing does. The dust returns as fast as it leaves. It clings to your ankles, your thoughts, your memory of whatever it was you meant to do next. You sweep anyway. The broom is falling apart. The bristles are stiff and shed like sheep in spring. You keep going. Not because it's effective, but because it feels like obedience. To the room, to the rhythm, to the fact that even straw expects to be put in its place. The air inside is thick today. Not hot exactly, just occupied. The smell of boiled lentils from hours ago still lingers in the corners like a forgotten argument. Smoke drifts from the hearth, curling in shapes that look like they might have meaning if you were in the mood to invent some. You're not. You're just trying to finish the sweeping. Your mother is humming again, a song about olives, or time, or some woman who married a storm. She hums without noticing. She's been humming since before you were born. You wonder if it helps her. You hope it does. Outside, someone is shouting, a familiar voice. Loud, hoarse, certain that volume makes a point more truthful. You listen, but not really. You already know the words. Someone took something. Someone forgot something. Someone didn't show up when they were supposed to. The usual. You open the door slightly and look out. The village is exactly as you left it. Slanted rooftops, walls that lean like they're listening in, and people moving like they're retracing steps they took yesterday. You step outside, letting the broom rest against the doorway like a weapon you've sheathed for now. You walk to the edge of the square, not because anything is happening, just because standing still makes you visible. You'd rather not be visible today, not because of shame, just fatigue. Being seen comes with expectations, and you've already met too many of those this week. A woman nods at you, you nod back. The transaction is complete. No one smiles, no one needs to. You sit on a low wall. The stone is warm, your legs dangle. You're neither child nor elder, neither sacred nor forgettable. Just something in between, like dust caught in sunlight. Nearby a man is fixing a cart. He curses gently under his breath, not the angry kind of cursing, the tired kind, the kind that says, I already knew this wouldn't work, but I had to try anyway. You understand. You watch the wheel wobble. He adjusts it. It wobbles again. He sighs. You feel it in your own chest. You nod at him when he looks up. He shrugs. The conversation is over. The wheel will wobble again tomorrow. You wander back toward home. Slowly. There is no rush. There never is. Rushing implies you believe things will improve if you get to them faster. You've learned. They won't. Your mother has laid out vegetables on a cloth. They are not beautiful. Some are bruised. One is definitely beginning a second life as something else. She waves you over. You begin chopping. Slowly. The knife is dull. You press hard. The rhythm is irregular but steady. It fills the silence. The smell of onions makes your eyes water. You let them. It saves you from pretending you had no reason to cry. After the meal, which is neither good nor bad, you sit outside again, this time with your brother. He's drawing something in the dirt. Circles, lines, a face, maybe a map, maybe a god. He doesn't explain. You don't ask. The sun is low. The sky is trying on the colour of copper. You pick at a loose thread on your tunic. You think about tomorrow, briefly, then decide not to. The goats bleat in the distance. Somewhere a pot clatters. Somewhere someone prays. You lie back, the ground hard against your spine. The stars are beginning to show themselves, one by one, slowly, modestly, as if uncertain they're needed. You watch them. You try to remember their names. You fail. That's all right. They don't care. They've seen too many people who thought they mattered. You feel the cool of evening wrap around your feet. You don't pull the blanket higher. You let the chill settle. You let the night arrive. Your mother calls softly. You go inside. The hearth is glowing. The straw is slightly less scratchy than it was this morning. Your brother has fallen asleep with dirt on his hands. You rinse yours in the basin, the water cold and judgmental. You dry them on your tunic. It makes no difference. Everything smells the same anyway. You sit beside the fire and stare into it. It crackles without urgency. A priest once told you that fire is a living thing, that it listens, that it remembers. You don't speak to it. You let it forget. You lie down. The roof above you groans as the wood shifts in the night air. You wonder if the gods ever sleep. You hope they do. You hope they dream of lives like yours. Simple, aching, uneventful. You hope they understand what it means to be tired of nothing, but too tired to wish for more. You close your eyes and breathe slowly, like someone waiting for a message they know will never come. And still there is peace, not from meaning, but from repetition. And that somehow is enough. You wake to the sound of a spoon hitting the floor. It is neither dramatic nor unusual, just one of those household sounds that has been occurring since spoons were invented. Dull, metallic, slightly accusing. Your eyes open. The room is grey, not from fog or ash or divine presence, but from the simple fact that dawn has not fully committed itself yet. The hearth is cold. Your mother is already standing over the pot, muttering something half prayer, half recipe. Your brother is curled up under a blanket, his foot twitching like he's being chased in his dreams. You sit up slowly because fast movement is a thing of the past now. Your body doesn't allow speed anymore, only deliberation, and even that feels a bit optimistic some days. You stand. Your feet find the dirt floor like old friends greeting each other with polite indifference. The straw shifts beneath you. It smells faintly of something that died politely. You reach for your cloak. Not because it's cold, but because it gives you something to do with your hands while your mind finishes arriving. The cloak is worn. The hem is chewed by time and rodents, and possibly the gods themselves if they were in the mood for textile vengeance. You drape it over your shoulders and breathe out through your nose, a sigh that means nothing, a sound you've made every morning since memory began. You step outside. The village is beginning its slow exhale. A dog limps past you. One eye closed, tail half lifted, walking like it knows secrets but forgot where it buried them. You greet it with a nod. It ignores you, which is comforting. No one should expect too much of a creature before breakfast. You begin your walk to the baker's stall. The sky above you is still deciding whether to be blue or beige. A single bird calls out, not in song, but in a tone that sounds suspiciously like a complaint. You pass familiar faces, a woman dragging a basket too big for her arms, a man arguing with an olive tree. You're not sure if he's drunk or just lonely, possibly both. You nod at him anyway. He gestures at the tree like it owes him something. The baker's stall is half set up. You wait without speaking. Waiting is the language of mortals. Eventually he hands you a round, flat something that smells like yesterday's decisions. You hand him a coin that's bent enough to feel authentic. He grunts. You nod. The exchange is complete. You carry the bread home, still warm in your hands. It radiates the kind of heat that makes you briefly believe in kindness. Your mother slices it. Your brother chews without looking up. You sit, you eat, you exist. The morning passes like molasses through a cracked funnel. Slowly, unevenly, and always with the sense that something somewhere is leaking. You're asked to help repair the roof today, which means standing on a ladder made of bad ideas, holding a bundle of straw and hope. The sun is already high, watching you like a disinterested judge. You climb slowly. You balance yourself like a drunken philosopher trying to justify the shape of the world. Your uncle, or someone playing the role of your uncle, shouts instructions from below. They make no sense. You follow them anyway. You press the new straw into place. It falls. You press again. You wedge it in with a broken tool and a quiet prayer to whatever minor deity handles structural integrity. You pause. From up here, the village looks smaller than usual, like a toy version of suffering. You can see the market stalls, the well, the temple roof with its chipped tiles. You can see children chasing something invisible, a woman sweeping a doorway that refuses to stay clean. You feel like a god, for half a second. Then the ladder shifts and your foot slips and you remember exactly what you are. Mortal, grounded, fallible. You steady yourself, you breathe. You decide the roof is good enough, it always has been. Back on the ground, your uncle wipes his hands on his tunic like he's finished something grand. You both nod at each other. Nothing is said. The roof is now slightly more roof-like. It will hold for another few weeks, or days. You return home with straw in your hair and splinters in your palm. Your mother plucks the straw from your cloak without comment. Your brother offers you half of his fig. You take it. You chew. It tastes of sun and compromise. The afternoon drags itself across the earth like a bored prophet. You sit in the doorway, watching nothing in particular. A fly buzzes near your ear. You swat it away. It returns. You swat again. This continues until one of you gives up. You're not proud that it's you. Somewhere, someone is singing a work song. The melody repeats too often. The lyrics are about grain and betrayal. All songs are in the end. You close your eyes for a moment. Not to sleep, but to practice stillness. The kind of stillness that might pass for peace. Your breath slows. You hear footsteps, voices, the distant clatter of something important being dropped. None of it belongs to you. You are not needed in this moment. You are not missed. You are merely allowed. Evening arrives the way it always does, not with drama but with a shrug. The light softens, the sounds blur. Your mother lights the fire. Your brother hums. You stir the pot. No one speaks. Not out of silence, but because there is nothing left to say. The day has been lived. That's enough. You lie down. The straw welcomes you in its usual itchy way. You shift until your shoulder finds the one soft spot it remembers. You stare at the ceiling beams. They have not moved. That is comforting. The gods, wherever they are, remain silent. That is even more comforting. You close your eyes and try to remember something beautiful. You fail, but at least you remember how to sleep, and that is a kind of grace. You're sitting by the fire again, though it is not cold. The fire is not for heat now, but for the sound it makes, that soft cracking of old wood and older time. It fills the silence in a way that feels deserved. You hold a bowl in your lap. It contains something warm and shapeless. You're not sure what it is. You're not supposed to be. You eat it slowly, more out of respect for the cook than for your own hunger. Your brother sits nearby, tapping on the floor with a spoon, lost in a rhythm no one else can hear. You do not stop him. The sound is harmless, almost holy, almost like a ritual. You sip again from your bowl. The flavour is indistinct, but the warmth is real. Outside, the rain begins. Not hard, not loud, just enough to remind the roof that it still leaks. A drop lands beside the fire. Another hits your foot. The sound is soft but not shy. You listen to it as you eat. You wonder, as you often do, why the gods invented weather with such enthusiasm. There could have been one season, maybe two, but no. Instead, you have endless combinations of damp, cold, sweat, and confusion. You pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders, you pretend it helps, you're good at pretending, all mortals are. It's how you made it this far. Your mother begins humming. The same song again. You've never heard the whole thing, just bits. She forgets parts, repeats others. It's a tune passed down from someone who forgot it too. You hum along quietly, only enough to let her know you're listening. She doesn't look at you. She never does when she sings. You think that might be the point. You look at your bowl, now mostly empty, and swirl the last bit at the bottom. It looks like a tiny whirlpool of leftovers and time. You drink it anyway. You set the bowl down. The rain picks up slightly. Your brother asks if the gods are angry. You tell him no. You tell him the gods are just noisy sometimes. He nods. He believes you. Or wants to. You envy that. You remember when answers felt true just because someone said them with kindness. You say nothing else. You sit beside him and stare at the wet floor. It gleams like polished bronze. You trace a shape in the puddle with your toe, a spiral, or maybe just a circle gone wrong. It fades instantly. You're asked to go to the temple again. This time, not to sweep, to stand, to carry something, a basin, a banner, a feeling. You're not told why, only that your presence is needed. You nod. You always do. The temple steps are slick. The sky has gone from grey to the kind of blue that forgets how to be beautiful. You climb slowly. Inside, the air is thick with incense and warning. The priest stands in the centre, arms raised, eyes closed. You do not ask what he's doing. You simply take your place near the altar. You hold a candle. You try not to breathe too deeply. The smoke bites your lungs. It smells like herbs and judgment. People enter. Some kneel. Some stand. Some pretend they know what's going on. You do the same. There is a chant. It is slow, repetitive, as most truths are. You join in when you catch the rhythm. Your voice blends into the others, one thin thread in a fraying tapestry. The priest speaks of harvest, of sacrifice, of keeping balance in a world that does not care for it. You nod along, not because you understand, but because nodding is easier than wondering. You lower your head, you raise it again. A pattern, a habit, a form of worship. The ceremony ends without climax. The people file out, quiet, hollow-eyed. Some stay to ask questions, some stay to confess things that won't be remembered. You place your candle in its holder. The wax drips like slow tears. The priest thanks you with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. You bow. It is neither deep nor convincing. You leave the temple with your head full of nothing useful. Outside, the rain has stopped, but everything is still wet. You walk home slowly, feet sinking into the mud with each step. You pass the baker. He's sitting on a stool staring at the clouds. You say nothing. He nods once. A pigeon lands near his feet. He does not move. You do not stop. At home, your mother is grinding something in a bowl. It smells sharp, like roots and bitterness. Your brother is asleep again, curled into himself like a forgotten promise. You lie down next to the fire. The embers are still warm. You listen to your mother's grinding. You listen to the rain dripping from the edge of the roof. You listen to the world forgetting you existed. Just a little more, just for a little while. You do not feel divine. You do not feel heroic. You do not feel cursed. You feel like a person, which in this world is the heaviest thing you can be. You close your eyes, not to dream, but to disappear gently for a while, until the next bowl, until the next broom, until the next storm. You wake up with the taste of smoke in your mouth. Not fresh smoke, not dangerous smoke. The kind that's been sleeping in your lungs overnight. You sit up and cough once, not because you're sick, but because the air in this place forgets how to be kind after dark. The coals in the hearth are still faintly glowing, like the last thoughts of an old man halfway through a story no one asked for. Your blanket has shifted halfway off your body. You tug it back, then immediately regret it. It's damp. Everything here is always damp. The straw beneath you feels like it's been weeping quietly all night. You sigh into your hands, and your palms come away with a bit of ash. You don't bother wiping it off. What would be the point? The room around you is silent, but not in a peaceful way. It's the kind of silence that waits. Your brother is curled up near the corner, mouth slightly open, one foot twitching in time with something he's remembering. Your mother is already gone, probably at the well, probably muttering at it, as if the water might respond with gossip or grace. You rise slowly. The floor creaks under your heel, even though it's made of dirt. That's how tired the earth is. It creaks now. You dress. Same tunic, same patch where it tore. Same hope that today no one important notices. Outside, the morning is pale and thick. The sky hangs low like someone forgot to lift it properly today. A neighbour walks past with a bundle of kindling. She nods. You nod. She says something about the weather. You agree, though you didn't hear it. No one really listens. That's not what talking is for. Talking is just a way to remind the world you still have a voice. You follow the path toward the fields, not because you're expected to, but because your body has learned the route better than your mind. You step over the same rock you tripped on last week. You pat the same tree you once mistook for a god. You breathe. At the field's edge, someone is already working, bent over, arms moving like they've forgotten what rest feels like. You join them, no words, just the rhythm of labour. You pull weeds that grow back every time. You turn soil that doesn't want to be touched. You feel the sun rising behind you, soft and judgmental. The work is slow. It always is. The work doesn't want to be done. The tools are blunt. Your fingers ache. You keep going anyway, because the alternative is standing still, and stillness makes you visible. A bee buzzes near your ear. Again, you think it might be the same one. You think it might be trying to tell you something. You swat gently, not to hurt it, just to change the subject. It leaves. You wipe your brow. Sweat mixes with soil. You feel like a root. You keep working. By midday, someone calls you back. A voice you recognize but don't love. You stand, stretch, and feel your spine respond with what might be a protest or a prayer. You walk back through the dust which clings like doubt. The village is louder now. Someone is banging on a pot not to cook but to announce something. You don't stop to find out what. You've learned that most announcements are warnings in disguise. At home, your mother is slicing onions. She does it with the precision of someone who's done it more times than she's spoken her own name. Your brother is trying to catch a fly with a bowl. He's losing. You sit. You're handed something to cut. You don't ask what it is. The knife is dull. Your hands are slow. The pieces aren't even. No one says anything. You eat in silence. The food tastes like last week. It always does. Later, someone knocks. You open the door. It's a man with questions. About your neighbour. About the goat that wandered. About who saw what and when. You shrug. You say, I didn't see. Which is true. You don't see much anymore. You've learned not to. He nods. He leaves. You watch him disappear around the bend, and you try not to wonder if he's a man at all. People come like that sometimes. Vague, official, divine in all the worst ways. Evening falls like a slow exhale. The sky turns that dusty pink that makes everything feel like it's been left out too long. The village begins its soft retreat. Fires are lit, doors closed, voices drop. You sit by the hearth, your fingers stained with the day's effort. Your mother hums again. It's not a new song. It never is. You let it drift past you like smoke. Your brother rests his head on your arm. You don't move. You lie down after the fire dies low. You think briefly about running, about leaving the village, finding a new place, a better story. But then you remember, every story has a pot that needs stirring, a floor that needs sweeping, a god that needs appeasing. You roll onto your side, you pull the blanket up, you listen to the wind outside. It sounds like it's trying to make up its mind. And you stop trying to make up yours. You just sleep. Because you've earned nothing, but you've survived. Again. And sometimes that is the only kind of miracle this world allows. You're sitting on a bench outside your home, though you're not sure why. The sun is neither high nor low. The day isn't over, but it feels like it should be. You're holding a cup, half filled with something warm and bitter. It was supposed to be tea. It might be punishment. The cup is chipped. Everything you own is chipped. That's how you know it's yours. You sip slowly, hoping it improves with time. It doesn't. You set it down beside you, where the wood of the bench has splintered just enough to keep you alert. Across the path, someone is trimming a vine that doesn't want to be trimmed. Leaves fall like excuses. The sound is soft, deliberate, eternal. A child runs past you laughing. His feet slap the dirt like promises. He doesn't look at you. He doesn't need to. You are part of the landscape, furniture in his story. You once ran like that too, fast enough to believe you were going somewhere, far enough to believe you weren't coming back. But you did. Everyone does. The village pulls you back like a net, not with force, just with the weight of what stays the same. You blink. You sip again, still bitter. Your mother calls your name, not loudly, but with that certain tone, the one that means you knew this was coming. You stand slowly, always slowly now. Your joints are stiff. Not from age, just repetition. You walk inside. She gestures toward the hearth, where a bundle of dried herbs sits waiting. You know the task. Crush, mix, burn. The priest requested incense for the evening rite. No reason was given. There never is. The gods want what they want, and what they want changes weekly. You kneel and begin grinding the herbs. The mortar is older than you. It smells like every ceremony you've ever attended. You crush slowly. Your hands are stained green and brown, and something else you've stopped trying to identify. The scent rises, sharp, sour, faintly hopeful. Your mother hums. Of course she does. You stir the mixture with your finger and imagine the gods watching. Not from Olympus, but from the corners of the room, crouched like spiders, bored and curious. Later you carry the mixture to the temple. The path is short but sacred. You step carefully, not out of reverence, but because the stones are uneven and you've fallen here before. The temple doors are open. The priest stands beside the altar, looking like he's waiting for a better reason to be alive. You hand him the incense. He nods, says nothing. You bow, not deeply, just enough to be dismissed. You turn to go but pause when you hear a voice. Not divine, just a question from the priest. Do you believe they still listen? You do not answer. You do not stop. You walk back down the steps. The air is cooler now. A breeze wraps around your ankles, smelling of smoke and rosemary and things that might have been holy once. You return home. Your brother is carving a fish from a piece of wood. It does not look like a fish. He says it's a gift for the gods. You nod. You tell him it's beautiful. He smiles, which is rare and therefore sacred. Dinner is quiet, a stew made from things that didn't rot fast enough. Your mother serves it like a blessing. You eat it like a chore. The bowl is warm in your hands. The broth tastes like time. No one talks. The fire pops. A log shifts. Someone exhales. The silence is not uncomfortable. It's worn in. Familiar. Like sandals that stopped fitting years ago but still walk just fine. After the meal, your mother retreats to her corner with her weaving. Your brother lies on the floor, staring at the ceiling like it might open up and tell him what to do next. You sit by the hearth and stir the ashes. You're not looking for warmth, just movement, just something to mark the passage of another evening. You think about the priest's question. Do they still listen? You don't know, but it doesn't matter. You still speak. You still burn the herbs. You still kneel, not because it works, but because stopping would feel like admitting no one ever did. You lie down later than usual. Your eyes don't close easily tonight. Your body is tired, but your thoughts are active in that quiet, sluggish way they get when you've done nothing all day except carry meaning around like a stone in your mouth. You think about the child running, the vine being trimmed, the priest standing still. You think about the fish your brother carved, about the gods crouching in the corners of stories waiting for someone to notice them again. You close your eyes. You imagine a life without rituals. It terrifies you. So you breathe in, slowly, as if each breath is a liturgy, and you sleep, still bitter, still whole, still here. You wake up to voices that aren't meant for you. Somewhere outside, two people are arguing about fish, or money, or a boundary drawn too carelessly between two olive trees. Their words drift in through the cracks in the wall like smoke or gossip, uninvited but impossible to ignore. You lie still, staring at the ceiling, waiting to decide if this is a morning that will begin willingly, or one that must be endured. Eventually, your body makes the choice for you. You sit up. Your spine makes a sound. Your knees protest. Your hair is stuck to one side of your face. You peel it away without ceremony. There is no breakfast today, at least not yet. The bread is gone. The figs are not ripe. The goat has wandered off again. Your mother says nothing. just gestures toward the jug. The gesture says everything. You are the one who fetches the water now. You always have been. You don't argue. You take the jug, still slick with yesterday's dampness, and head out the door, barefoot, because your sandals split last week and haven't yet remembered how to be useful. The ground is cold. The morning is wet. A bird lands nearby and immediately regrets it. You walk slowly, partly because of the mud, partly because walking slowly is one of the only things you've mastered. The well is farther than it should be. You know every stone along the way. You know where to avoid the brambles, where the path rises just enough to remind your thighs that you're not as young as you pretend. You pass the same statues, broken, leaning, covered in moss that grows like memory. One is missing a head. You bow anyway. At the well, someone else is already there. An old man with hands like knots and a beard that moves more than his mouth. He nods. You nod. That's enough. He pulls his bucket up with a grunt that could mean anything from good morning to the gods are indifferent. You wait your turn. When it comes, you lower the jug slowly. The rope creaks. The water slaps the stone. The cold climbs up your arms as you lift. It spills. You don't care. You never do anymore. You have stopped fearing waste. Now you just measure it. You carry the jug back, arms aching, the water shifting with every step like it's trying to escape. You let some slosh out. It cools your feet. It makes the path shine for a moment. That's something. At home, your mother pours the water into a pot and nods once. You sit down, breathing through your teeth, rubbing your hands. The fire crackles. The room smells like onions again, and something else. Something burnt and possibly sacred. Your brother walks in with a handful of stones, announcing that one of them looks like a god. You glance. It looks like a potato. You tell him he's right. He beams. You feel holy for just a moment. Then it passes. Midday arrives like a sigh. The village slows. People lean against things. Chickens nap in the dust. Someone plays a flute with more enthusiasm than talent. You sit outside, chewing something leathery. It might be meat. It might be memory. You don't ask. You swallow. The sun makes your eyelids heavy. You let your head tip back. You dream, briefly, of a sea you've never seen. In the dream, you're still fetching water. Of course you are. Someone taps your shoulder. You wake. You're needed. A neighbour's cart is broken. The wheel is cracked. You don't know how to fix it, but you go anyway. Because being present is often enough. You lift. You hold. You suggest something vague. The cart groans. The wheel is lashed together with twine and conviction. It will break again. Everything does. You pat the side of the cart like it's a friend who just confessed something embarrassing. Later, at home, you're asked to grind herbs for a salve. Your mother hands you the pestle. You take it without a word. You crush. You mix. You listen to the sound of something being turned into something else. It comforts you. You smear the paste into a cloth. You hand it over. Your brother places it carefully on his arm where he scraped it climbing a tree. You do not scold him. Climbing is still sacred to those who think they'll never fall. The sky darkens before you're ready. It always does. You light the lamp. The oil is low. The wick stutters. Shadows gather in the corners like they're waiting for permission to enter fully. You sit near the fire. You hold your knees. You stare into the orange glow and think about how long a day really is when nothing remarkable happens, and how much work it still requires. Your mother speaks, just once. A short prayer, murmured more from habit than belief. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to give her words somewhere to land. The fire crackles again. Your brother breathes deeply beside you. The lamp flickers. You lie down. The straw is damp again. It always is. You shift. You sigh. You cover your feet. You close your eyes. Tomorrow we'll ask for water again. For labour. For patience. And you will give it. Not because you're strong, but because you haven't yet figured out how to stop. And in this world, that is the truest kind of strength. You wake to the sound of rain that doesn't belong here. Not the kind that falls politely. This rain is heavier, more purposeful, as though someone has decided the village needs washing. The roof leaks, of course, not in a dramatic way. Just a steady drip, like time measuring itself. It lands on the corner of your blanket. You shift slightly. It finds your arm. You move again. It chases you like a question you don't feel ready to answer. You sit up. The fire is out. The room is grey and wet and quiet. Everyone else is asleep. You watch your breath mist in the air. It makes no promises. You rise slowly. Your feet are cold. The floor is cold. The blanket is wet. You drape it over a chair that's been broken for a year. You move to the hearth. The coals are dead. You poke them anyway. Nothing. You gather the wood, what's left of it, and try to coax the flame back into existence. It resists you, as everything does at this hour. Eventually it catches, slowly, grudgingly. You sit near it, palms out, trying to remember what warmth felt like before it became something you had to earn. Outside, the village is hidden under fog and dripping rooftops. The mud has taken over the paths. Chickens complain from somewhere you can't see. A goat bleats once and then changes its mind. You wrap yourself in your cloak, which smells like old bread and worry, and step into the morning. The rain lands on your head. It runs down your back. You don't hurry. You've learned the rain doesn't care. You just move through it. You're going to fetch something, firewood probably, or herbs, or an explanation. Your mother gave you instructions. You weren't listening. You'll figure it out when you get there, or make something up. Either way, the task will get done. That's how life works here. You forget the reason, you do it anyway. The forest waits at the edge of the village. It's not a real forest, just a collection of trees that believe in each other. The path is soft and spongy beneath your feet. You step over puddles that try to reflect you. You look away. You gather the wood with careful hands. The bark is slick. The branches are stubborn. Everything is heavier when it's wet. You drag it back to the path, one bundle at a time, stacking it like promises you don't expect to keep. A bird watches you from the low branch of a fig tree. It tilts its head like it knows something you don't. You ignore it. That's safer. You hoist the bundle onto your back. You walk home slower than usual. No one is watching, but you still want to appear composed. That's the trick. Looking fine while everything aches. Back at the house, your mother has started preparing something. The pot is already bubbling, releasing steam that smells like roots and survival. You place the wood by the fire. You remove your cloak, which is now soaked and somehow heavier than you remember. You sit. You say nothing. She nods. That's enough. Your brother mumbles something in his sleep. You glance at him. He's dreaming again. You hope it's not about gods. Those dreams never end well. The rain continues. The light never quite arrives. The day just brightens a little, like someone turned the sky up halfway. You're given a task. Again. Always again. This time to repair the fence near the goat pen. The goats are watching you, judging you. They always are. One tries to chew your tunic. You push it away gently, like you would a child who's convinced mischief is sacred. You replace a few boards. You hammer with a rock. You tie things that probably weren't meant to be tied. In the end, it looks better, but not fixed. Nothing here is ever really fixed. Your hands are raw. Your back hurts. You return inside. You're handed a bowl of soup. It's hot, salty, forgiving. You drink it slowly, as if you're not sure it will last. Your brother sits beside you. He shows you a stone he found, shaped like a foot. You nod. You say it's a sign. He smiles. You lie. But the lie feels like a gift. Afternoon turns to evening without a proper transition. The light just fades like an idea that was never finished. You light the lamp. You feed the fire. You sit near the warmth, even though it's uneven. You think about nothing, which is better than thinking about everything. The priest walks by outside, muttering something under his breath. You don't open the door. You don't need more rituals. You've had enough for one day. You lie down again, even though it feels like you were just there. The blanket is mostly dry now. The fire is mostly still burning. The room is mostly quiet. You close your eyes. You listen to the rain, still falling, still measuring. You wonder what the gods do on days like this. Probably nothing. Probably the same things you do. Try to stay dry. Pretend to be important. And then you sleep. Not because you've earned it, but because the night insists. And the world, in all its damp silence, agrees. You're mending a cloak that doesn't want to be mended. It's the same cloak you've worn since the winter 3 years ago. Or 4. No one really counts anymore. The fabric is thinning in places that can't afford to thin. The thread you're using is the wrong colour. The needle is blunt, your fingers are cold. But you keep stitching slowly, like you're sewing meaning into the holes instead of wool. Across the room, your brother is asleep with one foot sticking out from under the blanket. Your mother is hunched near the fire, grinding something in a bowl that doesn't want to be helpful. No one speaks. The room doesn't ask for words. Just movement. Just quiet effort. Outside, the wind is testing the shutters again. It has been all day. It doesn't want to break anything. Just remind you it's there. The kind of wind that slips under the door and wraps around your ankles like guilt. You shift your legs and pretend it's nothing. The door creaks, even though no one's touched it. The walls sigh in places you've stopped noticing. A log falls in the hearth. Your mother doesn't flinch. Neither do you. It's just the house remembering something. You finish one row of stitches. You hold the cloak up. It looks worse than before. You nod. That's how things go. The more you try to fix them, the more honest they become. You fold it and set it aside. Your hands smell like wool and smoke. You rub your knuckles and think about standing up. Then you don't. A knock. Software. The kind of knock people use when they're not sure if they're welcome. You glance at your mother. She says nothing. You stand. You open the door. It's the neighbour's daughter. She looks like she's been crying, but in the way people cry when they've learned to do it without noise. She holds something out to you. A small bundle wrapped in cloth. Bread, probably. Or herbs. Or a thank you forgot you earned. You take it. She doesn't explain. She just turns and walks away, her sandals making a sound like wet leaves. You close the door. You place the bundle on the table. No one touches it. Not yet. Things given in silence deserve a little time before being unwrapped. Your mother hums a phrase of something old and wordless. Your brother stirs but doesn't wake. You add another log to the fire. It spits, hisses, flares briefly, then returns to its gentle breathing. You sit. You listen to the air settle. Eventually your mother opens the cloth. It's bread. Slightly overbaked but whole. She breaks it. She gives you half. She takes a small piece. The rest goes on the shelf for later. Always for later. You eat. Slowly. Thoughtfully. The crust is hard, but the centre is soft. That's something. Later you step outside, just for a moment, just to feel the night. The sky above you is full of stars pretending not to care. You stare at them. They stare back. You breathe in the cold. It fills your lungs like a question you're not ready to answer. You walk to the edge of the path. You look out across the rooftops. Everything is still. Everyone is quiet. Except for one dog, barking at something only it can see. You think about the myths again. The ones you grew up with. The ones that promised gods in disguise, miracles in the marketplace, justice that arrived wearing sandals. You think about how none of those things ever showed up here. And yet people still behave like they might. Still sweep their thresholds. Still leave figs by the altar. Still pause before saying certain names, just in case. You turn and walk back inside. The warmth hits your face like a slow memory. Your mother has fallen asleep in her chair. Your brother has rolled over and taken the blanket with him. You lie down. The floor creaks under you, though you haven't moved. You pull the edge of the cloak over your feet, and the same one you stitched earlier. The thread tugs slightly. It holds. You stare into the dark. You listen to the house breathe. You think briefly that maybe the gods do visit. Maybe they come in as wind, as silence, as the feeling that someone somewhere saw your effort and let you sleep a little easier tonight. You don't know. You don't need to, because for now you're here, federal, warm, mended. Enough. You wake with your back against the floor and your feet tangled in the hem of your blanket. The first thing you notice is your jaw, clenched, sore, holding on to a dream you can't quite remember. You release it. Slowly, as if your body might shatter if you move too fast. The fire has gone out again. It always does. You stare into the cold remains of the coals and try to imagine them warm. It doesn't work. You sit up. Your knees resist. Your neck reminds you that sleep is no longer restful, just horizontal survival. You stretch anyway. It's not for relief. It's a ritual now, one of many. You rise and fumble in the half-light for your cloak. It's still damp where the rain touched it yesterday. The corner smells like mildew and wool, and a little bit of effort. You wrap it around yourself like a memory you haven't let go of. The room is quiet. Your mother is still asleep, one arm draped over her chest like a tired promise. Your brother's feet stick out from under his blanket again, as if trying to escape the day before it begins. You step lightly, not out of politeness, but because the boards remember every footstep and tend to gossip. Outside, the morning is undecided. The sky is the colour of uncertainty. The wind is moving, but not with purpose. You walk to the well, not because you're thirsty, but because you've learned that fetching water first thing in the morning gives the day a shape. You pass the same houses, the same crooked fence, the same chicken that stares at you like it's waiting for you to admit something. You lower the bucket into the dark, deep echo of the well. You pull. The rope strains. Your shoulders strain more. You don't complain. There's no one to hear it anyway. Back home, the water is poured into the pot. Your mother stirs something dry into it. Barley, maybe. Or something that used to be barley. You chew the bread from last night, now harder than it was when it was considered food. You dip it in the boiling mess. You eat. Your brother says something about a dream. You nod like you heard him. He says a god touched his shoulder. You tell him it was probably just a draft. He insists it was real. You don't argue. He needs that belief. You don't. You're asked to clean the floor today. Again. The floor never stays clean. Dust returns faster than you can remove it. It arrives like a reminder that things are always falling apart, even when you're trying. You sweep with the same old broom. The handle is splintered. The bristles fall out in tufts like the hair of someone giving up. You move the dirt from one side of the room to the other. It doesn't resist. It just shifts, like most problems. Later you're called to help carry something heavy, a sack of grain, or rocks, or guilt. You carry it anyway. Because the people who ask don't know how to lift, and you've always been the one who can. Your hands ache, your back creaks, your breath shortens. You say nothing. You don't want thanks. You want the silence after the task is done. You set the weight down. Someone nods. You nod back. And then it's over. By midday, the sun has decided to show up properly. It fills the square with golden disappointment. People squint at each other. Children chase each other with sticks shaped like swords. You sit on a wall and eat an apple that's more bruised than fruit. A dog stares at you, waiting. You toss it the core. It takes it like it's a miracle. You envy that. Someone mentions a festival next week. You pretend to care. You say something about wine, about dancing, about offerings. You know you won't go, but pretending is enough to be included in the conversation. That's how most things work here. You pretend you believe. They pretend you matter. And the world keeps spinning in place. Back at home, the fire is lit again. The room smells of smoke and damp fabric. Your mother is boiling something in a pot. Your brother is drawing pictures in the ash. A bird, a fish, a god. He asks if it looks like Zeus. You say yes, it doesn't. He smiles. You do too. A little. Evening folds over the village like a second blanket. The light retreats inch by inch. You sit near the fire and stretch your legs. The warmth soaks in slowly, like it doesn't quite trust you yet. You listen to your mother hum, to your brother whisper to himself, to the wind pushing against the door half-heartedly. You lie down, you pull the cloak over your shoulders. It's still not warm enough. You close your eyes and think of the sky, of how wide it is, of how small you are, of how even the stars can't find you in all this sameness. And still you sleep, because tomorrow you'll rise and sweep again and carry again and mend what shouldn't still need mending. And you'll do it all, not because you were chosen, but because no one else remembered to stop. You're washing something that refuses to be clean, a tunic stained beyond reason. It belonged to your father once, or maybe to a cousin who hasn't returned. The cloth is thin where the shoulders fold. The colour, once bright, now hovers between dust and forgetfulness. You dip it in the water again, watching the dirt bloom outward like a soft accusation. You scrub without urgency. The stone beneath your knees is cold but not surprising. Nothing surprises you anymore. Even discomfort feels familiar. Like an old friend who's overstayed their welcome but still brings bread. The stream beside you murmurs to itself. It doesn't want conversation, just acknowledgement. Its current is slow today, the surface broken only by the occasional insect or falling leaf, both equally insignificant. You look up. The sky is open, wide, indifferent. A single cloud drifts by like a priest who forgot his lines. You return to the tunic. You wring it out slowly, twisting water from memory. Your hands ache. You ignore them. Pain is a language you've stopped translating. You walk back home with the tunic over your shoulder, dripping onto your back. The path is familiar. The dust worn smooth by hundreds of feet, most of them unimportant. You pass a neighbour who raises a hand. You return the gesture, that's all. You no longer ask questions unless the answer is something you're ready to carry. And lately, you have no room for new burdens. The old ones are still stretching their legs. At the doorway, your mother takes the tunic from you without a word. She inspects it with eyes that see past the cloth and into the years behind it. She nods once and hangs it to dry. Your brother is trying to balance a bowl on his head. You pretend not to notice. He's smiling, and it's a fragile kind of smile. You don't want to break it by looking. You sit by the fire. The pot is bubbling with something that doesn't smell quite edible but will be eaten anyway. Your mother stirs it like she's conducting a quiet rebellion. You don't speak. There's nothing new to say, and in this house silence is a form of devotion. You watch the flames. They dance like they're practicing, like they've heard there might be a real fire someday, and they want to be ready. You're given a bowl. You eat. Slowly. The food is thick, heavy, generous in the way only necessity can be. You chew and stare at the wall. A crack has formed near the window. It looks like a road, a way out. You trace it with your eyes and wonder how far it would go if you followed it with your finger. You don't move. You finish eating. Later you're sent to collect eggs. The coop is stubborn. The chicken's suspicious. They cluck like politicians. You reach under one and retrieve a single egg. It's warm, light, delicate. You hold it like it might explode. You carry it back with both hands, walking as if you were chosen, as if the fate of the world depended on this fragile thing surviving the next 20 steps. Back inside, your mother takes the egg without looking. She sets it down and returns to her weaving. You don't ask what she's making. She doesn't know either. Sometimes she just weaves because her hands remember how. Your brother falls asleep with his face in a piece of bread. You let him. You adjust the fire. The wood cracks open like it's giving up secrets. You listen, but they're not yours. You lie down early or late. Time doesn't really matter anymore. Not when the day gives you nothing to hold except what you've already carried too long. The ceiling above you has collected cobwebs. You don't remove them. They belong now. They know more about this house than you do. You pull the blanket over your chest. You breathe. Outside, the wind is changing. You can hear it scrape against the walls, testing for weakness. You close your eyes. You think about nothing in particular. A well, a ladder, a goat with one horn, a name you haven't spoken in years. You drift. You're not a hero, not a priest, not a part of any legend, but you are still here, still waking, still walking to the well, still mending what tears, still feeding what hungers, and sometimes the gods watch, but more often they don't, and that, strangely, is how you know you are safe. You wake before the light touches anything. The air is cool, still wrapped in the night's leftover silence. You listen for movement, the creak of the roof beams, the shift of your mother in her chair, the rustle of your brother turning beneath a too-thin blanket. But everything is holding its breath. Even the fire has fallen into stillness. Its coals cold, but not dead. You sit up slowly, not because you have somewhere to be, but because lying down too long feels too much like forgetting. You stretch. Your bones murmur in their usual voices. Nothing hurts in a new way. That's how you know it's going to be a good day, or at least the same as the one before. You place your feet on the ground and feel the dust rise around your ankles like smoke. The floor welcomes you with its uneven texture, with the same stubbornness you've always admired in things that can't speak. You wrap yourself in your cloak. It smells like old smoke, damp air, and usefulness. You don't need a mirror to know how you look. The same, just like everyone else who survives here. A little bent, a little quiet, but intact. You open the door and step into the grey morning. Outside, the village is beginning to blink awake. A goat stumbles past with the confidence of something that's never had to earn its place. A woman washes her hands at a basin, her eyes unfocused, her lips moving around a prayer too soft for the gods to hear. A man rearranges the same row of baskets he's rearranged every morning for 20 years. You nod to each of them. They nod back. That is the ritual, the offering, the only kind of worship anyone expects anymore. You walk to the field. Not because there is work waiting, though there always is, but because it's where your feet carry you. The earth is still damp from last night's half-hearted rain. You kneel near the edge and begin pulling weeds. The roots cling to the soil like secrets. You tug gently, as if to ask permission. Some come free, others break. That's the way of things. You accept it. Your hands are already stained, already worn, already known to the land. You hum something under your breath. A tune with no beginning and no end. You hum just loud enough for the weeds to hear it. By midday, the sun has arrived. It doesn't shine so much as hover, like someone trying to decide whether to stay. You sit in the shade of a fig tree, chewing a crust of bread that tastes like memory and effort. Your brother sits beside you talking about dreams again. He says he saw a bird with 3 wings. You tell him that's a sign of something good. He asks what. You say survival. He doesn't understand, but he nods. He's getting older now. Soon he'll stop asking what things mean. He'll just carry them like the rest of you do. You return home carrying a basket of roots. Your mother barely looks at them before tossing them into the pot. She knows what's edible. She knows what's bitter but safe. She knows how to feed people with almost nothing. You help her stir. The mixture bubbles. It smells like salt and persistence. You eat it slowly, letting the warmth settle in the back of your throat, in your chest, in the empty corners of your stomach. You don't speak while eating. The quiet is a kind of seasoning. Later, you mend a crack in the wall. A small one. Nothing urgent. But you do it anyway because cracks grow. And because fixing things is the closest you ever get to stopping time. You press the clay into place, smoothing it with your thumb. It dries uneven. You don't fix it. Nothing is ever truly smooth around here. You sit back and wipe your hands on your tunic. The wall will hold, for now. The sky turns golden, then soft, then indifferent. Evening walks into the village like it owns the place. You feed the fire. Your mother wraps her shawl around her shoulders. Your brother begins telling a story he doesn't know how to end. You listen anyway. When he pauses, unsure, you nod like that was the point all along. He grins. You've given him nothing, and everything. You lie down. The blanket smells like yesterday. So does your hair. So does the floor. You stare at the ceiling, tracing the same line your eyes find every night. A crack that's growing. Or maybe not. You tell yourself it's the same. You close your eyes and try to remember something worth dreaming about. A fig tree. A quiet field. A bird with 3 wings. A god who forgot your name. Or maybe remembered it, but chose not to say it out loud. You fall asleep the same way you wake. Slowly, reluctantly, without fanfare. And in that silence there is peace. The kind that doesn't come from answers. Only from continuing. You wake up with your face against the wall, not on purpose, just how you ended up. The plaster is cold and grainy. It smells faintly of old smoke and older bread. You pull away slowly, like separating from a thought that overstayed its welcome. The blanket is tangled around your knees. You shift, untwist, rise. Your feet touch the floor. It meets you like it always does, hard, indifferent, familiar. The fire is down to ash. The pot is empty. The room smells like yesterday's soup, and the quiet knows your name. You stand. You fold the blanket. You rub your neck. Your back whispers things you pretend not to hear. Outside, the wind taps the shutters, with a rhythm that sounds intentional. You step out into the morning and find the village doing exactly what it does. Not much. A woman shakes a rug against the wind. A child chases something he might have imagined. A man sits beside a cracked wall, staring at nothing with a kind of intensity that suggests prayer or indigestion. You nod to them all. They nod back. This is the dance. You're told there's dough to knead. Of course there is. There's always something to shape with your hands. Flour, wool, clay, regret. You wash your hands in the basin, and the water is colder than expected. It bites at your fingertips like a small punishment for no particular sin. You dry them on your tunic. You press your palms into the dough. It resists, then yields, then resists again. You knead it until your shoulders ache. You knead it until it forgets what it used to be. You leave it to rise in a bowl that once belonged to someone you don't speak of anymore. While it rests, you sweep. The dust gathers faster now. It breeds in corners and under chairs. You sweep it from one end of the room to the other, knowing it will return. It always does. Dust and memory have that in common. They come back when you think you've cleared enough space to breathe. You open the window. The breeze moves through the room without asking. It brings with it the smell of earth, chickens, and something faintly burnt. You close the window again. The dough is ready, or close enough. You shape it into loaves that look tired before they were even baked. Your mother lights the oven. Your brother draws symbols in the flour dust on the table. Spirals, eyes. Things he says keep the bad spirits out. You tell him the bread does that. He nods. He doesn't believe you, but he likes the idea. The loaves go into the oven. The heat wraps around your face like breath. You wait. That's half the task. Waiting. Watching. Listening to the fire crackle and complain. The bread begins to brown. Your stomach growls. You haven't eaten yet. You haven't even remembered what you dreamed. Or if you did. You sit on a stool and close your eyes, just for a moment, just to rest your spine against the air. You breathe. The smell of bread rises like a slow hymn. When it's ready, you lift the loaves out with a cloth that's scorched on one end. You place them on the table. Steam curls upward like smoke from a quiet offering. You cut a slice. You hand it to your brother. He bites in. He says nothing. That's how you know it's good. You eat yours more slowly. You chew like you're remembering something. Not a story, just a shape, a taste, a rhythm. Later you walk to the edge of the village to gather herbs, not because they're needed now, but because they always will be later. The path winds through old stones and grasses that sway like they're whispering secrets. You find the herbs where they always grow. You pick only what you need. You thank the ground with your silence. That's enough. You return home. The sun is already moving toward its softer colours. The bread has cooled. The fire is low. The herbs go in a jar. Your mother mutters approval. Your brother has fallen asleep beside the oven. His hand is still dusted with flour. You wipe it gently with the edge of your sleeve. He doesn't stir. You lie down. The room darkens. You pull the blanket up. You close your eyes. And you sleep. Not because you're at peace, but because the bread is made, and no one asked for more than that. You wake to the sound of the rooster, who's wrong again. He always is. He crows like the sun has already arrived. But when you sit up and glance at the wall, it's still dark. The fire is dead. The room is cold. Your mouth tastes like ash and forgetting. You wrap yourself in your cloak, now stiff at the edges, and sit for a moment on the edge of the straw bed, elbows on knees, letting your eyes adjust to the absence of light. Your back aches, your breath is shallow, and your stomach is undecided. Nothing is wrong. It's just morning. You stand, you stretch. A quiet string of cracks rises from your joints like a sentence you didn't mean to speak out loud. Your mother stirs in her chair, one hand pressed to her chest like she's dreaming of carrying something too heavy. She doesn't wake. Your brother mutters into his blanket and turns away. You step softly through the house, each footstep placed in the same place it always is. You light the fire. The flint strikes once, then twice. A spark, then warmth. The smoke rises slowly, curling into the rafters like it knows where to go. Outside, the sky's still abruise. Not dark, not light. Just that blue-grey in between where the air feels heavier and the village is more shadow than structure. You walk toward the well, as you always do. The handle creaks, the rope groans, the bucket dips into the cold below, disappearing into the quiet that lives beneath the village. You pull. The weight reminds you that your arms are still yours. The water is cold, it splashes your feet, you flinch, but not much. You've grown used to small discomforts. They don't feel like punishment anymore, just part of the texture of being. You pass the temple on the way back, the door is ajar. Inside, someone is praying, or pretending, or both. You glance in, but not long. Statues look back. You don't like their eyes. Too perfect, too still. The gods live in stone here, not because they want to, because it's safer that way. You keep walking. You carry the water home and pour it into the pot. It hisses against the iron. The steam carries a scent of dust and time. The day unfolds slowly. You're asked to carry a sack of grain. You do. It's heavier than it looks. Everything is. You're asked to help mend the fence near the goat pen. You do. The goats are loud and unimpressed. One tries to bite your sleeve. You let it. You return inside. You eat a piece of bread that cracks at the edges. You chew it anyway. It's warm in the middle. That's enough. Your brother asks you why the gods never answer. You tell him they do, just quietly, through weather, through fire, through the way bread rises if you don't rush it. He thinks about this, then nods, then asks if the gods eat bread. You say yes, of course they do. He tears off a piece and sets it near the hearth, just in case. You say nothing. You let him believe that someone might come for it. In the afternoon, a neighbour stops by. She asks for help with a door that won't stay shut. You nod. You follow. You fix the door. It still won't shut completely. You say that's the best it will do. She nods. She gives you a piece of cloth as thanks. You don't need it. You take it anyway. Refusing gifts here is bad luck. Even small ones. Evening arrives without permission. It just slips in. You light the lamp. The flame flickers as if startled. The shadows crawl into their usual corners. You sit by the fire. Your brother sleeps beside you, one hand still curled around the piece of bread that was meant for a god. You don't take it. You let it be. You lie down. You pull the blanket over your shoulders. You close your eyes. You breathe. You forget what you forgot. You let the night take you back into its slow, blank silence. You sleep. Not because anything is finished, but because nothing ever is. The morning doesn't arrive so much as it forgets to stay away. You wake to grey light seeping through the cracks of the shutters. It has no warmth, no clarity, just presence. The kind of light that makes you wonder if the sun has grown tired of trying. You sit up and stretch. Your spine sounds like someone walking slowly across gravel. You don't wince. That sound has been yours for years. You stand, gently unpeeling yourself from the blanket like bark from an old tree. The fire has died. You knew it would. The coals are only slightly warm. You poke them anyway, not out of hope, but habit. Your mother is already awake, staring into nothing with a cup in her hand. The cup is empty. She doesn't notice. She nods at you. That's all. Your brother sleeps with his mouth open and one foot dangling off the bed like he's trying to escape the dream he wandered into. You don't wake him. Not yet. Outside, a dog barks once, then stops. Somewhere, a door opens with the sound of old wood reconsidering its strength. The village, like your body, is slowly realizing it still exists. You go outside. The wind greets you with a slap that doesn't feel angry, just cold. A cart creaks by, pulled by a mule that looks older than memory. You nod to the man driving it. He nods back, once, like someone acknowledging a ghost. The path to the well is muddy from last night's indecisive rain. You walk it anyway. The water is clear and unfriendly. You pull the bucket up, each inch resisting slightly, like it doesn't believe you need it. You do. You always do. Back in the house, the water goes into the pot. A few root vegetables are thrown in. None of them fresh, all of them necessary. The fire finally catches again, after 3 tries. Your fingers smell like smoke and flint. You chew a piece of bread left from yesterday. It's hard. It tastes like dust and faint comfort. Your mother hums a tune you don't know the name of. Maybe it never had one. You're sent to help with washing today. The river is colder than usual. Your hands go numb, then ache, then accept. You scrub the cloth over a rock that has smoothed over decades of repetition. You think of how many others have stood here bent like this, cleaning garments that would be stained again tomorrow. The cloth is stubborn. The stains laugh in silence. You scrub anyway. You rinse. You wring it out. The water runs dirty, then clear, then doesn't run at all. You carry the clothes home, wet, heavy, accusing. Your brother follows you around this afternoon. He wants to ask questions, but doesn't know which ones. He carries a stick like a sword and tells you he's guarding the house from invisible monsters. You nod and tell him to keep watch near the door. He takes this job seriously. He doesn't know yet that some of the worst monsters don't come from outside. You don't tell him that part. You let him pretend. Later, someone is crying 2 houses down. You hear it through the thin air. It's not loud, just persistent. Like a kettle that's ready, but no one's coming to remove it. No one talks about it. You don't ask. You don't go. People grieve here like they sweep floors, quietly, and with the understanding that the dust will come back anyway. The evening crawls in again. The sun, when it sets, doesn't set with beauty. It just lowers itself out of the way. The sky fades like cloth left too long in the rain. You light the fire. You hold your hands out toward it. The warmth is not immediate. It makes you earn it. You sit. Your brother hums the same melody your mother did. It skips in places. He fills the gaps with nonsense words. It still sounds right. You eat soup that tastes like everything you've ever eaten. Salt, fat, memory. You sleep without deciding to. Your body finds the floor, the blanket finds your shoulder, the room finds silence, and sleep folds over you the way time does. Slow, unkind, soft at the edges. You're not remembered, not carved into stone, but you remain. And sometimes, remaining is the bravest thing a mortal can do. You don't wake right away. You rise slowly, like something remembered too late. The blanket is bunched beneath your knees. The floor is cooler than it was yesterday. Or maybe your skin has just grown thinner. You sit in the silence of a room that hasn't changed in years. The fire is out. The pot is empty. Your mother is asleep this time, one hand draped over the side of her chair like she let go of something in the night. Your brother is curled up with his back to you. A tiny pool of breath fogs the spot just beneath his nose. You don't move yet. You just watch the dust floating in the faint grey air, tiny dancers with nowhere to be. Outside, the village is still pretending not to exist. No carts yet, no goats arguing, no clatter of pails or shouting over walls, just fog, heavy, unmoving. It covers everything like an old shawl, draped carelessly over rooftops and fences and regrets. You step out into it barefoot. The earth is wet and soft like bread left too long in milk. Your feet don't protest. They never do anymore. You walk to the well, though you aren't thirsty. You just need to hear the creak of the rope, the weight of the bucket, the splash below, the sound of something responding. You drop the bucket and wait. When it hits the surface, it sends up a shiver that echoes up the rope, through your hand into your wrist. You pull, slowly. The water is cold, clear, ancient. You look down into it just long enough to catch your reflection. Not sharp, not young, but still there. You nod to yourself, the only audience you've ever really had. You pour the water into the pot back home, though no one asked for it. That's the point. The morning drifts past like smoke. A neighbour waves, you wave back. You trade 3 eggs for a handful of salt. You mend a rip in your tunic that no one else would notice. You listen to a story that doesn't have an ending. You laugh once, quietly. You forget why. The bread is baked again. You cut it into pieces. You place one on a dish by the fire, for the gods, or for the mice. At this point, you don't care who takes it. Evening doesn't fall today. It lowers itself like a curtain in a room where the play ended long ago. You sit by the door, staring out into the fading sky, where the stars haven't decided whether they're coming. The moon is a thin smear of milk, not interested in lighting anything properly. You rub your knees, you listen to the quiet. Not because it says anything new, but because it keeps showing up. You lie down. This time you feel your body give in. The bones settle. The breath deepens. You're not tired from work. You're tired from staying when it would have been easier to vanish, from keeping the fire going, from mending the cloth, from listening to the silence without asking it to change. The room fades around you. You can hear your mother breathing. You can hear your brother shift in his sleep. You can hear your own heart ticking in its slow, faithful rhythm. You close your eyes, not to escape, just to rest from noticing. The gods don't come, they never do, but the bread is still warm, and the house is still standing, and that somehow is enough. Sleep now, sleep like nothing needs you tomorrow. Sleep like the stories will wait. Sleep like the world can go on without your worry, because it will. And you've done enough. Good night.